So the philosophy that guides my work as a lawyer is, number one, to be truly truthful with both the clients, the opponents, our adversaries, and the court. And the reason is that I think that truth is so important, particularly for a lawyer, because that's all you really have are your words. And so if you're not truthful, then you really lose in terms of negotiations, in terms of being in court, in terms of being in a settlement negotiation. You really need to stand by your word. The other thing that I think is so important in terms of my philosophy of how I run my practice is responsiveness. And I say that because I've been through my own divorce, and I remember how important it was for a lawyer to be responsive. It's one of the reasons, actually, that I ended up going into matrimonial law. I had had the experience of having a matrimonial attorney who didn't respond. And I know that in these such stressful times when you're worried about your children and frankly, your finances, that it's really important to get a response quickly. So I would say that those two elements are so key for me. And then I would say being prepared. As an attorney, you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared every time you walk into a meeting. You need to be prepared every time you walk into a courtroom. You need to know your case. You need to review the documents, to hear what your client is saying, what your client wants, and what's realistic for your client to actually achieve. And you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to communicate to the court. You need to be able to communicate to your client, and you need to be able to communicate with your adversary. So it's very important to actually be prepared, because if you're not prepared, you can't communicate. In terms of my background, I came from the fashion business, and I had a showroom on 7th Avenue and came right out of high school, actually, worked for a manufacturer on 7th Avenue, and then opened up my own showroom. I was always very entrepreneurial. And then I went through my own divorce, and I decided as I was going through my own divorce that I wanted to go back to college, which I did. I got my degree from Fordham University, and that specifically I wanted to go to law school, and I got my degree from Fordham Law. And then very specifically, I wanted to actually get my law degree and practice in matrimonial. So very early on, I made that decision. I went to school full time. I was raising a child and had, remarried at that point, had gone through my divorce, remarried. And I really focused on matrimonial law, because I felt like I could be so helpful to people as they were going through the same process that I had gone through. And I also understood how important it was to be responsive to the client, because as a client, that was what I really wanted, was someone to respond to me on a Saturday, on a Sunday, at night, if there was an urgent issue. Those were all really important factors for me. And that's what I did. So I interned during law school for a matrimonial solo practitioner. And then I discovered the courtroom and settlement negotiations and learned that in some ways what I brought to the table was my ability to negotiate. And I had learned that ability, frankly, on 7th Avenue, because I was negotiating for markdown money, and I was negotiating for, how much this would cost or that would cost, or where it was going to be placed in a Macy's or a Bloomingdale's or any of those types of things. And in a lot of ways, there's some similarity, because it's all about negotiation at the end of the day.